Good morning. Welcome to the Braamcast. This is probably the earliest episode that we have recorded yet. It is 6 a.m. here. We're bringing you good Brahms this morning. What's up, Alex?
What's going on, Caleb?
Oh, nothing much. I slept well. Did you sleep well?
No. I mean, yes, but not long enough.
Do we ever sleep long enough?
No.
No.
I wear a Whoop, and if you're not familiar with the Whoop, it tracks your sleep when you had disturbances in the night. Like, you can look at your sleep report in the morning, and basically how long you were in bed versus how long you were actually asleep, what cycles of sleep you were in. And it's been awful. It said like I got 25% recovery last 2 nights ago, and then last night something similar. So I'm feeling it.
That's fantastic. You're doing well.
Yeah. We should have tied that into our creativity episode. Like, how does a lack of sleep affect your brain's ability to be creative?
Oh,
Probably
yeah.
a lot. Probably a lot.
I would imagine absolutely a lot. I mean, yeah, it's just if you don't sleep, you don't really do anything well. So I would imagine.
Yeah, you don't even think well. Like, if I'm tired enough, I can't even string together like normal thoughts.
Yeah, we've all had that moment. So especially when we were younger, where the later the night goes on, the sillier everything gets, and people just don't think straight, and so everything's funnier.
Yeah, and then it turns into like anger.
Just, yeah. I don't know what happened. He went from laughing to murder. So this episode is a Father's Day special. We wanted, since obviously Father's Day is right around the corner, we wanted to do something a little different. So this should be a pretty short episode, but it should be touching and endearing. So stick with us. I actually went to my parents' house and interviewed my dad. So, I just asked him really a single question: how has music impacted his life? So that's kind of the idea here. We're gonna start off with that field recording. Got a little surprise for everybody, and then I will interview Alex, because Alex is new to the dadding game. Fairly new. How old is your baby girl now?
She is turning 1 in 2 weeks.
Oh, man. Oh, boy. 1 year old. Or 1 year old.
Yep. So, I mean, yeah, I think I still classify as a new dad.
Yeah, compared to, a 20-year veteran.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty much a new dad. But yeah, so we'll share the field recording, and then we'll get into interviewing Alex. I am not a dad myself yet, at least not of a human. So I'm not going to really speak to that. But I have a cat. That's my baby boy. All right, so without further ado, here's my dad. Okay, I am sitting here with my dad, and I told him about this last night, so he might, I'm just going to ask a question and we'll see how it goes. So he might be caught off guard a little bit, but hi, Dad.
Hey, son, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. So I want to know how music has impacted your life. Super vague question, but basically in any way that it's impacted you, I would like that story. So,
wow, that is a broad spectrum to cover.
Yeah, maybe you could start with like were you involved in music in any way, or did you grow up with music? Did you ever go anywhere with it, or was it just kind of a thing that you listened to for enjoyment?
Well, you may or may not know this. I don't really know if we sat down and talked about it before, but on your grandmother's side, there was lots of uncles, grandpas were very musically inclined. So they would always play and they would always sing. Anytime we got to a family reunion, or just get together, period. You want Uncle Roland. He actually had a time of good fortune playing music and singing and country.
So he was basically a rock star.
Yeah, for his dad, rock star in country music. You actually had a couple aunts that actually have written songs that have been produced. So at a young age for me, singing in church, it was just a natural thing. That's just what we did. Mm-hmm. As I got older and got in high school, got into singing with a group and band. We were doing quite well. The hard part was, of course, finding drummers or musicians that are actually committed.
Yeah, that's the worst. I tried that. That's why I'm a solo artist now. Well, I'm not a solo artist. Sorry, Alex. Now I'm in a duo, but it's a little different the way we do it.
That is true. As you know, I mean, you sang with me when you were young in church. Music for me is a way to, I guess, for a lot of people to cope with what's going on in life and during the day. I mean, it's uplifting. It can be. I mean, there are some music that's not really uplifting, but it can be uplifting. It can be joyous, in different genres of music. I was able to do lots of things from overseas and home, and it makes me happy. I guess what you'd have to say.
I mean, I feel like that's the best reason. Well, if no other reason for doing music or being involved in music, if it makes you happy, that's probably one of the best.
I mean, that's true. Being overseas and in different parts of my life, and actually singing and having joy in your life, like I said, no matter the genre, it could be Christian gospel, it could be rock and roll, it could be country, and people notice that. People will gravitate towards you if you have that joyous spirit within you, I guess you would say.
It's a universal language.
Basically, yes, like food.
It's like food. Music and food always go great together in any combination.
This is very true.
No, I feel like I seem to remember you mentioning there was a connection with your band and Leonard Skinner.
As you well know, one of my guitarists, Rick Ellington, he knew all the boys from Leonard Skinner, from Marshall Tucker, a lot of groups that would come here and hang out. Mm-hmm. We were actually, after not during their highlight, but unfortunately after the accident, we were able to play with the drummer a little bit, just kick around. Mm-hmm. Was able to sing a little bit with some Marshall Tucker guys, and it was fun. It was a blast. That down home people, just all they want to do is just sing and have fun and just enjoy life.
Yeah. Southern rock and roll. That's a little bit different than what Alex and I do now, but it's still music, just like food is still food. Well, cool. Well, how would you say, so that's a history. We'll end it with, how would you say music is currently, what is music's place in your life right now?
I still sing. I try to pick around with a few things. Don't do it as much as I would like to right now. But it is still a driving force within me. It's kind of like losing your mojo if you don't keep it up, because just like anything in life, when you are pushing forward, when you're younger and you're really trying to drive and kick it, and something happens that deflates you, you got to have something, other than God, of course, but you got to have something to lift you up that's universal and that you can go anywhere and you can sing or you can just keep moving. It is a great thing in my book.
So biggest takeaway is music's impact on your life is it makes you happy.
It does make me happy. Um, I enjoy doing it, singing with others, and just because it lifts everybody up. I mean, you could be at a funeral and sing and it lift people up. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's a way to, like I said, basically cope with things going on in life, and the people that are actually able to make money off of it. That's great. I give it to them because, it helps a lot of people. I guess you would say the right kind of music helps a lot of people.
Yeah. Music can be a weapon.
Yes, it can.
Music, food, and happiness. Well, thank you for your time. Happy Father's Day.
Well, thank you very much, son. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me. And I'm so very proud of you and Alex for what you guys are doing and where you're going in your life.
Oh, you hear that, Alex? He's proud of you, too. He's never even met you. He's proud of you.
I met him once. We connected.
All right.
Okay. Everybody say "aw" all together. Nope. Okay, great, fine, whatever. That's all right. I'll just do it myself. But yeah, that was my dad. He actually has quite a bit of experience with music throughout his life, so it was cool to get to interview him. So thanks, Dad. And yeah, we'll jump right into Alex. Mr. Dad, how has music impacted your life?
I mean, I don't know, from like the earliest age I can remember, my parents, they listened to a lot of music, but it was never anything that I really liked when I was really young. Like did my dad listen to a lot of baseball in the car? Like it's funny, my memories of that. But really, me and my older brother, we watched a lot of those like classic Disney movies. And I don't know if you remember those, but those had some fantastic music.
Of course, I remember those. I'm 30 years old.
Right. So I mean, they were like musicals, and you'd learn all the words and sing all the songs, and we'd watch the same movies over and over and over again, just so that we could, sing along. And I think those movies did help shape like a certain shape some of my taste in music. And what it did also was it built this emotional parallel to the music itself. Like it wasn't just music for the ears; it had a story it was telling. And I think Disney did a really great job at that. Now, where Disney is now and how good of a job they do, I don't think it's comparable to that time frame.
Well, we won't talk about where Disney is right now.
But they were the best. They were the best in the.
Well, that was your first intro to Mr. Hans Zimmer. So
yeah, The Lion King was the best, and like Disney had no business making soundtracks as good as they did, but I'm thankful for it. And fast forward a little bit, and my favorite music was coming through Radio Disney. I don't know if Radio Disney's still around. There we go, Disney again. Radio Disney. They had everything on there: Backstreet Boys and Smash Mouth and Britney Spears, like the pop music of the day.
Mm-hmm.
But they had awesome music. That was the only station we listened to, and I loved all the music of that time. And I remember it's funny that it's a Father's Day episode. One Father's Day for my dad. My dad loved like epic movies, right? And one of his favorites was Last of the Mohicans.
Oh yeah,
and he loved the music to it. And so one Father's Day when I was really young, we got him the CD for the Last of the Mohicans soundtrack. And
oh, that's great.
He was so
my dad.
Yeah, he was stoked.
No, sorry, my dad had the soundtrack to Braveheart.
Yeah, I that should have been one we had. That's funny. He loved it, and then I listened to it all the time. I loved it. My parents got me. They saw that I liked that stuff, so they got me the Star Wars Episode 1 soundtrack for my portable CD player. And, now we're getting really deep into like emotional music that's telling a story.
Duel of the Fates.
And yeah, it was all fantastic. Even the slow, like more love songs on that score.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would listen to the whole thing. I loved it. I was only like 6 or 7, but yeah, I loved all that stuff. And so I would say in my childhood, it played a huge role. And I was able to always connect and like imagine this whole scenario that I was involved in as I listened to the music. I don't know if it's because we do music now. It was definitely prominent when I first started making music that, I had this really strong connection to the music. I would say now I don't feel as much of an emotional tie to the music, to any music I listen to, music I make. That same level of like goosebumps that I used to get from a lot of music seems to not be there anymore. And I don't know if that's just something that happens with age or if it's something that happens when you break down music too much, right? Like you're literally making the sausage. So sausage loses its appeal. I don't know what it is. Do you notice that?
Yeah, I mean, it might be something to do with the fact that it's a profession, like we're doing it professionally. So I don't want to say, I mean, obviously there's more at stake, but it's not that much pressure, but there is pressure to get something really great created and get it out and do that on a consistent basis. So, but then again, if I'm listening to a genre or a song that I really like and it just hits right, then sometimes I'll get the goosebumps, but yeah, it's not as often as what, and it could be, I think it's a combination of both, honestly. It could be age too. It could just be, you're becoming an old man. So maybe you're just disgruntled toward the world.
Yeah. I don't know what it is, but I have a distinct memory of when, every time I heard a song that like I really like, you really liked, which happens less and less now. Like it's very rare that I hear a song that gets saved for later. But that used to happen all the time. Like every other song I'd hear, I'd be like, "This is great. This is great." I don't know what it is, but I used to think a lot more about how I could relate to the song and any kind of like emotional connection I had with the song. It's just not there as much anymore. So yeah, that would be an interesting thing to dive into is that something that happens because of age and maybe like hormone changes and, you think less about how it immediately impacts you, or is it your experiences with music or is it that because music is so similar nowadays, with everything that's on Spotify and it's so accessible and barrier to entry is low. Is it that everything is starting to sound so similar to one another that there really there aren't too many novel ideas, and you're not ever shocked. You're like, oh yeah, this sounds exactly like everything else. So
yeah, I think that technology has made it so that there's so many different ways to create music. I mean, back in the day, back on our dad's day, since this is a Father's Day episode, listening to music, it had to be intentional. So, for all of those people that had record players, you had to physically take the record out of the sleeve, put it on the turntable, put the needle on it just right. So there was this physical interaction to listening to music. And then when it was over, it was over. And it just keeps spinning with no sound. So you had to go, either move the needle again or put it away. And so there was this moment of, I want to listen to music, so I'm going to go take this record and put it on the thing. And now with streaming, we just pop it on, and it's a lot of the times we use music as background music instead of intentionality of listening to it. So
that's true.
It's a different experience of music these days. And then also, of course, there's just, because everyone can make music now, and you don't have to have a label, you don't have to get it printed to a physical medium. Yeah, there's just so many songs.
And do you remember that feeling before you had like a streaming device on your person at all times? Do you remember that feeling of when you were at the mercy of the radio and you'd put on, your favorite radio station in hopes that this one song you wanted to hear would come on? And when it did, man, you'd light up like, yes, you get to listen to it. Because, if you didn't have a record player, or you didn't have a Walkman. I mean, you needed to listen to the radio, and then you're at the mercy of the radio, hoping that the songs that you want to hear come on. But then you also have to be in an environment where a radio is acceptable. So, are you in the car, or are you at home? You can't be working. You can't be out and about. So, yeah, it was more rare. That's probably what it is. It's like when you do something, or when you have something so available and always there, it loses a bit of its magic. I mean, it's not there's nothing keeping you away from it at any point.
Yeah.
So like when you eat really, really delicious food, but you have it every meal, it's like that's not that great anymore.
Yeah, it's like that overexposure. I bet if you did not listen to music for, I don't know, a fortnight, 2 weeks at all, then you'd probably start to crave it. And then when you listen to it again, you're like, wow, this song is way better than I thought it was. Maybe we should do that with our own stuff. Like the stuff we make, music we make. We should like step away for 2 weeks and come back and be like, this is ready for release.
It's not a bad idea. No, I remember that happening at basic training. 4 months of you don't hear a single thing that sounds like music. I mean, besides your cadences that you're yelling out and the stupid songs. But I remember we got on a bus, and usually we didn't bus anywhere because we walked everywhere in the middle of summer. But we got on a bus to go to the graduation field before graduation. And in the bus driver, usually the bus's radios didn't work or anything, or they just didn't play it because it was like a prison. But the bus radio was playing Carly Rae Jepsen. Is that who it was? Call Me Maybe.
Oh yeah, perfect.
And it was everybody on the bus's first time, because it must have came out while we were at basic. Everybody's first time on the bus hearing music in like 4 months, but also first time hearing that song. So you had a new song and you had music for the first time in 4 months, and everybody, it was such a weird feeling, but intense. It was so intense hearing like music like that. It was if maybe that's a good thing to try to do. I don't know if you can get away with it now. Like, how are you going to not hear music? But
yeah, maybe it would be an interesting experience, an interesting experiment to try, just for kicks and giggles. Why not?
Yeah.
So, what happened after childhood? If music impacted your life in childhood, then what did that ultimately lead to? Because I feel like everybody was impacted by music in some way. Everybody has a history with music, but not everybody takes that and decides to do something with it.
Yeah. Well, the internet came along, and maybe like 2005-ish, 2006, I think YouTube became a thing. And then on YouTube, that was when YouTube was pretty good. Like YouTube could lead you anywhere organically. Like if you started going down some kind of rabbit hole, it would recommend very similar things. And so you could reach a point that was like traceable. And I remember I heard this was, I don't know if you ever heard of Bass Hunter, but
Yeah, I think so.
he had this song Dota, and he's a Swedish guy. And I thought it was the best song ever. The music video was hilarious. It was like, it was them playing World of Warcraft in their room. But yeah, I thought it was the best ever. It was like this techno music on this like melodic techno music that I heard. And because I'd never heard that before, and I'd never heard something like that, I thought it was amazing. Went down the whole YouTube rabbit hole on anything that was similar. And I just started LimeWiring that to my
LimeWire
MP3 player. So by seventh grade, man, I was listening to nothing but like techno, early techno, whatever you want to call it, trance. I don't know. I don't think it had a proper name, but it was basically internet, early internet EDM. And man, I was so obsessed with it. Like, and it was so unique that when I knew I wanted to make music, I knew I wanted to figure out a way to do it. I just didn't know how. And I thought I needed, everybody was using FL Studio back then, especially for this music. And I knew that, we had a Mac. I needed some kind of a PC to do that with FL Studio. But then GarageBand came along, and I was able to start doing that. So I started making like really cheesy techno music to start, where it was just a bass kick, 4 to the floor, like kick snare.
Dub dubs and wub wubs.
That was before the dub dubs wub wubs. It was, but so I think that's like where that started. Was I loved the soundtracks and everything and the scores, and then I loved this dance music, if that's what you want to call it. And I was obsessive with both.
And here we are combining both currently.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of come full circle.
Oh, it definitely has. And I think the other reason why I've been able to be so obsessive with both is because both are very unconventional things that people like to listen to. Most people don't like to listen to movie scores for easy listening. And most people don't, or at the time, nobody was listening to this like electronic music. And that's refreshing because then there's really no one else that's talking about it. There's really no one else that's like watering it down. And so it's just your thing. And when something is like just your thing, it's so much more exciting.
Yeah, that's true. I was reminded yesterday during my morning workout that trailer music is the king of all workout music.
Yeah.
I turned it on after, because I had been listening to just whatever, like music in our genre. And then I was like, you know what? I'm feeling in the mood for some trailer music this time. And dude, it was like, felt like a Spartan in my garage gym. Just like I was going to war, and it was great.
Yeah, it's the best time for trailer music. It's great. I can't listen to the I remember I heard my first like 2 Steps from Hell back in when I was a freshman in college, and that stuff was amazing. But listening back to their earliest stuff now, it sounds so cheesy, but I guess it's, it evolves. Back then it was your very classic like choir, epic string melody, and like now you couldn't get away with that really because it's just too basic.
Yeah.
But at the time it was like the best. Everybody was using it in their videos, and everybody.
Yeah, it's like melodrama.
Yeah, but trailer music now, I think it's still something that a lot of people sleep on. they don't even realize that it's out there.
Yeah.
They'll hear it, right, in trailers or in videos or whatever, but they don't connect the dots that you can literally just pull that up and listen to it.
Yeah, no, and a good way to understand the impact of music on trailers is to listen to a trailer with no music. It's so weird. It's such a strange experience. Or I mean, the same thing goes for movies. Although in movies there are stretches of dialogue where there's no music, and it actually silence can enhance the intensity of that moment because it's just like we expect music to be there, and when it's not, it's like I'm uncomfortable.
Well, we kind of like, I always refer to everything as a pendulum. It swings to the left and then swings to the right over time. And if you watch like back in the 90s, most movies in the 90s had these beautiful scores. Like they totally could stand on their own. And every scene of most movies was just so like emotionally gripping because the score, and that's just the way that it was. Like that was the way that it was done then. You didn't really make a score that wasn't emotionally impactful. And then fast forward to, I don't know, maybe like around 2010, 2012. And what you were talking about where like they realized that silence does have an impact. And you probably want to put some of that in there because those old movies don't have a single second where there's not like strings going or whatever. But then they took it too far where there were movies that didn't have a score at all. And I was like, ugh, this is gross. Like, I remember I watched Dallas Buyers Club and there isn't a single moment of music in that movie. And it's just very dry. And I think that, some movies took it too far. Like, hey, this needs to be really serious and intense. And it's like, okay, but
that's not a movie. It's too close.
I want the whole production. I don't want real life. I want this whole thing.
I'm watching this to escape from life, not re-experience it. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, happy Father's Day. This is your first Father's Day, isn't it?
It is my first Father's Day. Yeah, we'll see what I do if I get some socks and underwear. That's like
hey man, don't be hating on the
joke,
socks. Right? There is nothing quite like a pair of new socks, especially if you get some thick socks, like thick cushioning on the bottom, and you wear them for the first time. It's like walking on clouds.
Well, those are good gifts because you never go out and buy socks. Like you never like, I'm going to go buy myself some new socks. It's just like not something you go out and do. So it is essential. Like you do need new stuff like that you're not going to get on your own.
I'm going to bring you some socks.
It's funny with Savannah grew up making music or not, playing instruments because her grandparents are like such music fanatics, right? Like that's kind of how they met, and her grandmother plays the piano, like she's so good, and and they both sing. They both sung in choirs for their whole lives, and they still do today. And so from like a young age, Savannah she was doing piano lessons, she was doing guitar, she was doing all that, and then when she, I don't know, I think it was in college, she just like stopped. That interest wasn't there. So I think about that with Scarlett. Like, does it make a difference if you start them? Like you say, oh, I want them to be into music. I want them to learn an instrument. It doesn't necessarily guarantee anything. Like it doesn't mean that they're actually going to want to do that or resonate with it. I didn't have any exposure really to playing any instruments when I was young. But I had such a pull towards music once I became like, a teenager. So I don't know. I mean, I guess you could introduce things, but
I think a good balance, as a non-parent or a non-human parent, this is my advice. I think a good balance would be to have just like instruments laying around in the house that are accessible, but you let her discover it on her own kind of thing instead of like forcing it. Because then, you may, it's like, it's like being forced to play sports or something when you don't want to. Then you grow up and you're like not really liking sports because it's like I felt like I had to do it.
Yeah.
But if you feel like something is your choice, then it's going to be more important to you. But then again, maybe you don't have to. Maybe there's something genetic about it. And maybe there's not. Cause like I didn't have any instruments laying around. However, I did grow up similarly to Savannah, where there is, piano lessons, and then I wanted a guitar, and then from there I just taught myself everything. But then I ended up going to school for music, so that's kind of my story. So once I was bit by the music bug, I never stopped doing music. It just transformed from singer-songwriter to EDM producer.
Yeah. I think the way that kids are introduced to music can be very off-putting, right? Like, oh, well, here's your recorder and play hot cross buns. And it's like there's nothing that makes me less motivated to do music than playing hot cross buns on a recorder.
Yeah.
Or, playing Mary Had a Little Lamb on the piano. It's like, I get it. You got to learn the basics, but playing stuff that honestly is super lame, especially as a kid, like that's lame. It's not incentivizing to move forward with it and like look forward to it.
Break down like a favorite song that you hear on the radio and then make it super basic.
Yeah, because like if when I started in GarageBand, if I was restricted to learning Mary Had a Little Lamb and making that in GarageBand, I would have not ever finished that first project because the payoff at the end sucks.
Should we remix an epic version of Mary Had a Little Lamb? Complete with epic choirs and horns and everything.
Because I did do a couple years of maybe like a year and a half of band when I was in third grade, and every rehearsal I went to was so boring.
Yeah,
it's so lame, and like everything we'd play was just awful. And we did like the concerts and stuff. It was just
Did
so
you do
lame.
band in middle school or high school?
Absolutely not. No.
I did band for 6th grade and 7th grade. I played the saxophone.
Yeah, see, that was cool. I played the flute, but I was the only boy.
Yeah, well, it's not the worst thing in the world.
All the boys were playing saxophones, and then it was me and like 6 girls playing the flute.
I remember there was one guy who played the clarinet, and it was either he was either the only clarinet player or definitely the only guy playing clarinet. I actually wanted to be on the drum line or play drums in middle school, but then I think I tested. There was a test you had to, like a rhythm test, and the band director was like, you know what? Actually, I think you would be good at saxophone. So I played saxophone, but it didn't last. And I'm glad it didn't last because I'm glad I didn't get caught up in marching band culture. Because, dude, people in marching band, they do not have lives in high school. It's like always practicing.
And the band kids were the band kids. Like you knew who they were. They were nerds forever.
Well, I was already a nerd, so I wasn't worried about that. But it was just like, I don't know. I'd rather be playing video games than going to band practice.
Yeah, it was pretty lame. But yeah, so I don't know with Scarlett and stuff, how to approach that as a father who is into music.
I think you'll figure it out. And honestly, I think that she'll probably. Usually, what happens is the kid will naturally fall in love with whatever their parent is passionate about, as long as the parent doesn't try to force their passion onto the kid. I think it's just this natural, like, I kind of grew up in a home where if it's a good home environment, then whatever the excitement of the parents is, the kid starts to get excited about too, because it's just like, this is exciting. This is kind of a...
That's definitely true. My dad spent all his free time in the yard, like basically just trying to beautify the yard. And And looking back, like he had the best yard in the neighborhood. Just beautiful, like beautiful flower beds and stuff. And I that didn't really manifest for me until like now, but it definitely did. And I think that's a result of the environment I grew up in, seeing somebody else that was so passionate about it and do something so well. Yeah, that kind of bleeds over whether you're intending to do it or not. So yeah, that's a good point. I think whatever parents are passionate about, that'll stick.
So Scarlett's going to end up becoming a fitness person and a music maker.
It's possible. That would be pretty awesome.
All right. Well, that is our Father's Day special episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and hearing the story from, a 50-year-old veteran of life versus a new dad, and the different experiences with music. I think everybody has their own experience with music, so it's cool to get everybody's stories. So yeah, happy Father's Day, man.
Happy Father's Day.